Are you tired of superhero comics or just wanted to expand your comic reading repertoire? Listen to find out our recommendations. Hey there, comic fam. Welcome back to Climbing Comics. I'm Alan, and in this episode, we'll be taking a break from superhero comics and giving some indie recommendations. I know for myself, I sometimes get a little bit of superhero fatigue. So to change it up, I ended up following a couple of popular authors to non-superhero books, and I definitely wanted to recommend these to you. To help me break down the recommendations, I have a guest that will help me with this. So just like last time, I'll be bringing my friend Johnny along. Hello, Johnny. How's it going?
Hey, Alan. It's going well. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just doing a lot of reading over this past couple weeks and, got a little bit of that comic superhero fatigue. So I thought I'd change it up. And I thought, why not bring Johnny on? Because I know you've read a lot of like indie books.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's always be a spot for superhero books, but after decades of reading like all those books, sometimes you want to change it up every now and again, because
Mhm.
the medium has so much to give, in addition to seeing like cool fight scenes and stuff like that.
Definitely.
So, what books have you read recently, Alan?
Yeah, so let me give you the reason why I kind of got into these specific books.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago, I ended up watching my buddy Justin, No Good Comics, and he randomly did a live stream with a couple of other comic book community members, Azorus Tiger. This guy also, his name is Claiming Comics, which is funny because mine is climbing. So I followed him, and they did this. They did this book reading of the first trade paperback of Black Science, right? So Black Science is written by Rick Remender, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Of Uncanny X-Force fame.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we read that together. So kind of following Rick Remender, I knew like right away once they mentioned this and they mentioned his name, I wanted to jump straight into it. And the artist Matteo Scalera, there was like a lot of cool stuff. So I I got the trade paperback kind of, or like digital trade paperback on Comixology and read it. I think it's the first 6 issues. So that's essentially like my first one that I would definitely recommend, because reading into it, it has a lot of cool things. So before I jump into that, what is one of yours? And I'll give you my second one. So mine is
Yeah.
sci-fi.
Your
Yeah.
sci-fi. Yeah. So, how is Black Science so far? Because I like, that's been my list of stuff to read. You read the first 6 issues, you were saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. It was really good. Well, since you bring it up, I was gonna save this for a little bit later, but one
Okay.
of the things that I like reading on digitally about, like, so I have my iPad here. So
Yeah.
it's what I use to page through. So to give the audience an idea, I felt like the kind of cinematic feature of reading comics digitally, because Claiming
Oh,
Comics also mentioned this. So let me share my screen so the
Claiming
people's
Comics, your
Claiming Comics.
doppelganger.
It's my doppelganger. So here we have the Comixology, like, web browser app. I actually prefer to read it on my iPad, but
Uh-huh.
this is just Black Science. So I'm just going to show you a couple of the panels. So this is the zoomed in panel, right? So
Yeah.
as you go in, you could click forward. It widens up the view to that. You read that. Oh, something else happens, and we face them. Black Science. So it was just like that, like boom, like kind of zoom in, zoom out, boom, and this is like the title screen of like a movie. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a really cool thing that Claiming Comics recommended of why he liked this book. And the story behind it is actually really cool. I'm gonna bring us back together. Did you ever watch that show Sliders?
Oh yeah, I love sliders, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, all the things we could talk about with sliders. They should make that into a comic book. But yes, go on.
This is Black Science is kind of like Sliders.
Oh,
So if
cool.
you Yeah, when I first read it, I had no clue about it other than from Justin and his group of buddies who read it. And once I jumped in, like you jump straight into the story. That's how Rick Remender is. Like you go straight into the action, and the artist Matteo Scalera did a great job with this. Right, it's very science fictiony. It's a mix and a blend of things you know, but it's kind of weird because it's like it's just kind of made up type of different like worlds. I don't want to give too much about the story, but
Mhm.
you're traveling between like multiverses, different parallel realities. So like to draw that was he did a great job, and the story has been great so far. It's
Cool.
there's deception, there's like romance, there's heartbreak, there's like weird science, there's family, there's a little bit of everything.
Oh, cool. Fun.
Yeah, it's
I'll
really
add that
fun.
to my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you, Johnny?
Oh.
What did you what have you read?
Yeah, and just by coincidence, I read two nonfiction books recently that um I just read because they just looked interesting and it was
Mhm.
just something different. And the funny thing about nonfiction is that I know it's always going to be a very contained story, like unlike you know a Superman story. I know it's going to end like because this is real life. It's going to have an end and beginning.
Mhm.
The first book I read was oh yeah, I read this because it was recommended to me by the library. It was even because it was Asian American Pacific Islander month, I think last
Mhm.
month, and this book was called "They Called Us Enemy." It's a story written by, or a ghost written by George Takei. I'm not sure
Oh.
if I'm using that word right, if that verb
Oh
right,
my.
but yeah, that guy. He had someone help him write the comic book version because no, like he doesn't write and draw comic books, but he knew that
Okay.
he could tell a story to a new audience um, if he made it in this form, and it was really great. Because
Nice.
I've read some traditional print stories of the Japanese internment camps and all that, but it's kind of neat seeing it visually because that's why I like comic books because I can just imagine things in a different way. So yeah,
Okay, cool.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I
yeah,
see it on Amazon. Yeah.
yeah,
This
it was
so this
kind
is
of
the first time I'm
depressing.
hearing your recommendation, so this is cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like it's like kind of depressing because you know what's about like
Yeah.
so yeah, just to give a quick summary, George Takei is of course played Sulu on Star Trek, but what you might not have known is that he grew up um in America during World War II, which means that a Japanese person growing up during that time, like they were hated by so many people because of the attack on Pearl Harbor,
Mhm.
and his family lost everything because they were forcibly removed from their homes and
Mhm.
put into internment camps. And it's and this and his story is real special because it's just instead of reading like a Wikipedia page about it, this is someone's like personal experience through that, and it's part of
Oh,
history.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. Nice. And just for our viewers and listeners, I pulled this up in the background.
Yeah.
George Takei, They Call Us Enemy. So this is Johnny's recommended book. All
Mhm.
right. Nice.
I'm always scared to recommend books like that because like that and like Mouse, the one about those mice in Nazi Germany. Have you read that one yet? But that's
No.
another good one. That's also really depressing. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's a dark time in human history,
Yeah.
man. The way that people were treated then. But yeah, it's good.
But
It's
that's
good. I
why
recommend it.
comics are such a cool like medium, right? You could write science fiction, superheroes, like fiction, nonfiction, everything. So
Yeah,
it's just a medium and to tell a story, and comics are a great way to do that.
for sure.
For my recommendation, mine is like very science fiction type for my second one, and another recommendation by Justin at No Good Comics. So the second one is called Descender. So this is from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. So Jeff Lemire, I think a lot of people know, wrote Sweet Tooth. So that's very popular on Netflix right now. And once I, heard about that and how good of a storyteller he was, I decided to read Descender. And the first trade paperback, again, let me share my screen with the viewers. So the first trade paperback is this one, Descender, 10 Stars, Volume 1. That was a really good read. So this one is definitely a really good read. It's about, future. It's about multi-planet, like galaxy type societies and robots, and these celestial type looking robots that come into presence of human beings. I won't really get into it, but it's a really cool story thus far after reading the first 6. I don't know if Sony optioned this or not.
They probably did. This is a good one. I read it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, the art is amazing. Like Dustin Ningyan's art is something special. It's like these watercolors. And
yes.
Yeah.
This was all before like the Peach Momoko craze and all of that good stuff. I think it's hard to do watercolors unless like you understand the storytelling that comes along with it, right? And it makes it more whimsical.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's well put, because the art really sets the mood for it, and and also like knowing how like those colors really like translate to the page. It's so hard for painting to do that. Like, as much as I love Alex Ross, like sometimes I think it shows it really dark on the page and it seems kind of dreary sometimes. But yeah, with Descender, it's very, I think, much.
Yeah, his use of, like, I think a lot of people might think using white space is just like, oh, they just don't want to do that. But the white space he uses in it actually like adds to the effect of everything that's going on, and you're just like focusing on it. So it's been a great read to kind of page through Comixology. So that is my second recommendation. It definitely sounds and feels like a made for a movie type of comic. And that's where Jeff Lemire goes, and that's really cool. So
it's amazing that he writes such a diversity of things. It's like he wrote that, he wrote Sweet Tooth, he wrote
so different.
Like another one that I like called like Black Hammer. That's like a superhero like satire. That's really good.
And I bought a couple of the Black Hammer / Justice League books.
Nice.
Yes. So I was like, oh, this will be interesting.
Yeah, he writes so many different things. I don't know how he does it. It's amazing to me.
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
So what's your second recommendation for our viewers today?
My second one, and by the way, like I do want to add that if you want to go the free route for these books, they're at the library. Like they're on the library app that I was mentioning earlier. All of them.
Hoopla, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so the last one, which is also on there, is there's actually a few of them. It's by the same author. It's called, and he has a weirder's name, Durf. I'm not sure if it's like a pseudonym, like a pen name, or his real name.
Okay.
But yeah, it sounds like how it spells. And I've read a few stuff by him, and they're all about different things. One is called My Friend Dahmer.
My Friend Dahmer?
There's My Friend Dahmer, and I read Trashed, and I read Kent State. So
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, they're all pretty good. Like, I'll try to go over all of them quickly. Dahmer is about, so he went to school with that serial murder, just
serial
by
killer?
coincidence.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, and then he just talks about going to high school with him and how like weird he was, and how he had a hard life, basically. Like, his family had it rough, and then he obviously had mental problems, and there was this no structure there to take care of him. He just like showed up to school drunk every day and was weird around people until one day.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's dark. Another one is Trashed, which is kind of neat. It's about his experience just being a trashman for a year, and like how he like how he views like trash, and people just keep on like buying stuff and throwing away, like the whole throwaway culture. Like, he looks at that.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. And lastly, it's Kent State. I think this one came out, this one got in my eye during all the protests last year, but it was about how these college protesters who were protesting against the Vietnam War, how something just like really dark happened at a protest in Kent State
Okay.
back in the 60s. And I don't want to spoil it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. Like the whole book feels like so tense. And this guy, he's a yeah, like he does a writing and the drawing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Wow.
Like I think it's a good energy to those books. Yeah.
Wow, we went in very different directions. So I'm gonna share my screen again, Johnny.
I
So
know it's
we
funny,
went
right? Sci-fi and nonfiction. They're almost like the opposites.
exactly. So we
Yeah.
have here your first one, My
Uh-huh.
Friend Dahmer, and then the second one looks like this: Trashed, Durf
Mhm.
Back Durf. That's an interesting name for sure.
Yeah, I think that's
And then
fake.
Kent State.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So I'm gonna bring us back to here. Yeah, we went in very different directions, and what I've noticed in both of our recommendations, all of these books were not like recent, right? A lot of them were from multiple years ago. And I think one of the things now is with knowing that a lot of these indie type sci-fi, horror, kind of random genre type things have become a little bit more popular. I feel like the bigger publishers, DC and Marvel, are starting to bring in some of these books into their like, collection of books that they, put on shelves. And I'll give an example, like, right? So I'm gonna keep talking about these guys, James Tinian
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah.
Alvaro Martinez Bueno. So, Nice House on the Lake seems like this weird sci-fi horror type thing. I don't know. By the time this stream or this video comes out, we'll probably be on multiple issues. But I've only read issue 1. That's what's come out so far. So a lot of these cool indie type books are, and the indie type genre, in terms of sci-fi and kind of this fictional type stuff, are like these books are opening up that gateway to be kind of more mass produced and given out more to by the big publishers. So
Yeah.
these are really good recommendations, Johnny. So I think just to TLDR for our listeners, my 2 recommendations were Black Science by Rick Remender and Matteo Scalera, and secondly, The Sender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen.
Yeah.
And then Johnny,
and
what were yours?
mine were They Called Us Enemy. I'm not sure who it's written by, but if you Google that, it's the story of George Takei's childhood.
Yeah.
And Kent State, Trashed, and My Friend Dahmer by Durf Back Durf. It's funny
Durf
saying
Back
that.
Durf. Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up. So They Called Us Enemy is by Eisner. I'm not, no, Essinger. I'm not exactly sure what his first name is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a really cool first episode of, I think, a good series of different types of books that are recommended, either superhero of a specific, genre within the super, or niche within that superhero genre, or
Mhm.
anything else. So I think this is a very good recommendation. For our listeners, our viewers, if you have recommendations of non-superhero comics, please leave those in the comment section below. We'd like to hear about what you like to read, because I want to read a lot more. And, if you want to reach out to me, please do so, on YouTube, Climbing Comics, or on Instagram, Climbing Comics 452, or you could email me at climbingcomics@gmail.com. So if you like this video, don't forget to click that thumbs up button, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you're notified of when I come out with new content. From our comic journey to yours, make it your own. Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the 20 minutes is fine. We went through each one. I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
and
Oh
plus there was
man,
that
yours are
break
so
for a bit.
dark, man.
I know. I know. Like now
I
that I
was
see it
like,
back to
oh
back, I
my
was like, Jesus, I need to lighten up.
yeah, read something fun. I'm trying to take a break from comic like superhero stuff by reading something a little different, but